Man, what's up? What's happening? You already know who it is and what it is. It's your boy, Nephew Q, everybody's favorite nephew, here to give you our NBA recap show. But before we do that, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody who is tuned into the show right now. Make sure you're doing everything that you can to protect and keep your loved ones safe during these COVID times. Whatever that may be, I'm not here to get into all of that, but whatever that may be, do yourself a favor, keep yourself safe, keep your loved ones safe, so we can go into 2022 trying to get rid of this COVID with all these extra variants and all of this type of stuff. So let's do what we can do to try to keep ourselves safe and get through this pandemic and get over this COVID nonsense. Now let's get right on into the show. Let's talk about the month of December. During the month of December, this guy, Donovan Mitchell, became player of the month as he led the Utah Jazz to a 12-2 record while posting the numbers of 30 points per game, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists to earn Western Conference Player of the Month. Now on the East side, let's see who won it over there. You have a Mr. Joel Embiid. Now, although his team was only 2 games above 500 for the month of December, Joel Embiid also put up an impressive stat line of 29 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. His team was 8-6 during the month of December. He got to get that up a little bit during this month of January. But Joel Embiid and Donovan Mitchell were the Eastern and Western Conference Players of the Month. So shout out to them in the month that they had last month. Let's talk about a couple of different things real quick before we go to the next topic. Let's talk about how COVID is affecting the NBA in good and bad ways. Obviously, we know the bad. You know, players, superstars, stars, all-stars are being sat out of games due to COVID protocols and things of that nature. So we get that. But if you can call it a good thing about the COVID is that it's allowing these teams to call up a lot of these G League players and also bringing back players from the past. Like you have a Mario Chalmers who had a call up with the Miami Heat. You have Isaiah Thomas who got a call up from the Los Angeles Lakers. So the good thing about the situation, if you want to call it a good thing, it may not be the correct term, is that it's allowing these G League players to come up to the NBA, get a little light shined on them, because the team that calls them up, they may not keep them. But there may be another team out there who's watching and might be like, hey, we like that player. We can use him on our roster going down the stretch. So the good thing, if you want to call it the good thing about, COVID affecting the NBA, is it's allowing these G League players to get called up, get 10-day contracts, and potentially show how they can benefit and add some benefit to an NBA roster, whether it's the team that called them up or maybe a potential other team. And like I mentioned earlier, also it's great to see that these NBA teams are also calling some of these older guys back, like a Mario Chalmers, Joe Johnson, ISO Joe got a look from the Boston Celtics, and like I mentioned, Isaiah Thomas. So that's a great thing that these teams are calling some of these guys back. But speaking of the NBA and the power rankings, let's take a look at the power rankings of the NBA, where you have the Golden State Warriors at number 1 with a record of 28-7, the Utah Jazz sitting at second with a record of 26-10, the Phoenix Suns, who started off the season kind of slow, but have picked things up with that winning streak that they had at the end of November, early December. They're sitting third with a record of 28-3. The Milwaukee Bucks are fourth with a record of 25-13. And rounding out are the Chicago Bulls at 5th with a record of 24-10. Man, let me know in the comments down below whether you think the power rankings for the top 5 are correct. Who needs to move up? Who needs to be moved down? Who needs to be inserted? Who needs to be taken out? Did they get it right? Is it wrong? Let me know your thoughts on the Power 5 rankings of the NBA right now. Now, the Power 5 rankings is about to get real crazy, right? Because the Golden State Warriors have the best record in the NBA, and they about to add that sharpshooter, that sniper, Mr. Wet Fire from Space Jam 2 himself. Klay Thompson is set to return back to the NBA, and the Golden State Warriors, who already have a great roster, who already have a great run, already won a ring with this man, 2 rings as a matter of fact with this man, and now they're about to add him back into the lineup. Man, the NBA is about to, as my dude Andrew would say, scary hours. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you have also the return Mr. Handles himself, Kyrie Irving, who is going to make his return to the Brooklyn Nets here soon. He will only be able to play in away games due to the mandate in New York City that you have to be vaccinated in order to, be employed and things of that nature. So we'll see about that. But I ain't here to talk about that point. I'm here to talk about Mr. Kyrie Irving's return to the Brooklyn Nets and what it could potentially mean for them. Next week you'll probably see them on the power rankings top 5 as they'll probably shoot up the rankings with KD once he gets back from COVID protocols. James Harden picks it up. Kyrie Irving. So again, scary hours once they Brooklyn Nets and Golden State Warriors are probably the 2 favorites to win the title at this particular point in time, man. But anyways, how do y'all feel about Kyrie Irving's return? Do y'all feel like some of his teammates might resent the fact that he's able to come back and play in away games and don't have to get the the shot or anything like that, versus other players on the team had to be there from day one, and other players had to get the shot in order for them to play? Do you think that there will be some guys on that team? I'm not saying it's going to affect the chemistry. I'm not saying it's going to affect the team, but do you think there will be some guys on that roster who might have some resentment towards Kyrie? Like, how does he get all this special treatment? How is he able to play on the away games and he ain't got to get vaccine? But I had to do, hey, dudes are human. They're entitled to their feelings. So what do y'all think? Do y'all think they'll show some resentment towards them? But anyways, let's go over to the Eastern Conference and see what the standings look like in the Eastern Conference. In the first place in Eastern Conference, you have the Chicago Bulls, and second you have the Brooklyn Nets. They're right there. They're flip-flopping throughout this entire season, 1 and 2. And then you have the Milwaukee Bucks at 3, the Miami Heat at 4, the surprising Cleveland Cavaliers, man, at number 5. Number 6, you have the Philadelphia 76ers, and 7, 8, you have the Charlotte Hornets and the Washington Wizards. Expect them to flip-flop probably all season long. You have the disappointing Boston Celtics and New York Knicks rounding out the top 10 as far as Eastern Conference standings. I know a lot of people expected the New York Knicks to have a better record than they have right now based on how they played last season going into the playoffs. They were in that 4-5 matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. They ended up losing in the first round, but the New York faithful was optimistic going into this season. I don't think they came in thinking they were going to be, 10th in the Eastern Conference by the time January rolls around. I'm not even going to get into 11 through 15 because who cares about them teams? So let's go on over to the West Side and see where the NBA standings are at. In first place, you have, of course, the Golden State Warriors. The second place, you have the Phoenix Suns. Third, you have the Utah Jazz. Fourth is the Memphis Grizzlies with a record of 23 and 14. Now, this is where, it gets a little funny, is that the Denver Nuggets are 5th with a record of 17 and 16. And then you have the Clippers with a record of 18 and 18. And 7, 8, 9, 10, you have the Lakers at 7 with a record of 18 and 19. The Dallas Mavericks at 8. The Minnesota Timberwolves at 9. And then the San Antonio Spurs rounding out the top 10. Man, this is tricky. I know a lot of people thinking, the Los Angeles Lakers have underachieved this season, and they have underachieved this season. But not to make any excuses, their big three hasn't played together all season. Well, they've only played in 15 games all season. I think their record is like 7 and 8 during that time span. They got to get AD healthy, and not only AD healthy, but they got to get AD aggressive when he's healthy. Russell Westbrook, try to limit his turnovers as best as possible. I wasn't very optimistic going into the season with the Lakers when they traded for Westbrook. I said it wasn't a good fit when they traded, but I also said I'll give them time to try to figure this thing out to see if it can work. We're back into January. They have a record of 18 and 19 at this point. Now, the only thing that's helping the Lakers right now is the fact that 5, 6, 7, and 8 are pretty much all separated by one game. So the Lakers could go on a nice little, winning streak and propel themselves up the standings, up to potentially the 5 seed, and maybe even grab a 4 seed if the Memphis Grizzlies hit a slide and and the Los Angeles Lakers are still streaking at the same time. But it would have to be a perfect storm for that to happen. They're not catching the Utah Jazz at 3. They're definitely not catching the Phoenix Suns at 2. And you can forget about trying to get the 1 seed for the Lakers because that's definitely not happening. The best the Lakers can hope for is to try to finish the season at the 4 seed or, worst case scenario, the 5 seed. They do not want to be in this play-in tournament again because we seen what happened with that. So the Los Angeles Lakers, they do have a shot at potentially shooting up the standings. And the only thing that's working in the Lakers' favor is that teams 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, well, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are pretty much all separated by, one game. And speaking of the Los Angeles Lakers, man, can we give some love to this guy right here, LeBron James? As I have the stats sitting up here of guys who played in the NBA at age 37 older. As you can see, LeBron James is putting up terrific numbers at 28 points per game. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at age 38 was averaging 23 points a game. Karl Malone at age 37 was averaging 23 points a game. And the great Michael Jordan was averaging 22 points a game at age 38. So although the Lakers are struggling themselves, LeBron James is having a very impressive season onto himself. I mean, you got to give credit when credit is due. He's still a top 5 player in the NBA. He might not be able to do the things that he did in Miami or both stints at Cleveland, but he's still maintaining. He's doing an excellent job of doing. I mean, the Lakers, LeBron, let me say this, LeBron James has help. He has AD when he's there. He has Russell Westbrook. They have all components they need to, on paper, win a championship. So it's not that LeBron James doesn't have help. He needs these guys to do what they're called to do. AD, be aggressive. Healthy, there's nothing you can do about that. But be aggressive when you are there. Russell Westbrook, limit the turnovers. Horton Tucker, can you please stop fouling everybody? We know you got, you got these fouls to give, but bro, that don't mean you got to use them. And can you stop turning the ball over? You know what I'm saying? So the Lakers have all the pieces and components that they need to make a deep playoff run and potentially go to the finals. But they just have to get it together because LeBron James at this stage in his career can no longer will a team to victory like he did with the Miami and both stints in Cleveland. It's going to take a little bit more effort from everybody, including Mr. LeBron. He's you know what I'm saying? He's been on a tear here lately, but it's going to take a little bit more effort from him to be able to make this thing work to where they can make a deep playoff run and potentially get to the finals. But I just wanted to shed a little light on how amazing he's been playing. Kevin Durant's been killing. Steph Curry's been balling. Giannis is balling. Joker, let's give some love to Joker as well. I mean, the Denver Nuggets record isn't really that great, but Joker's balling. John Morant, let's show some love to John Morant. Let's make sure we vote him into the All-Star game this season. He got snubbed last season. He's a top 5 point guard and elevated to a top 5 point guard status in the NBA this season. So let's give John Morant some love too. Make sure we vote him in and pay attention to his game as well. But everybody, before we get out of here, make sure you always go to the channel, click like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. If you can't watch the show on the YouTube channel or watch the show on Amazon Fire Stick, because we do have a channel on there, Beyond the Game on Amazon Fire Stick, make sure you go download that so you can sit back in your living room or on your phone or wherever the case may be and chill, sit back, relax, and watch Beyond the Game shows on there. If you're unable to watch the shows, you can also listen to the shows on all major podcast streaming platforms. So this is your boy Nephew Q. I'm about to get on up out of here. And as always, I want you to treat somebody how you want somebody to treat your mama. And we out this thing, man. Peace.